There's more bears.
Well, there's no people. I mean, you're talking about 60 homes.
That used to be over there.
Yeah.
And now everybody is somewhere else. So you don't see your friends every day. You don't get up and go to work anymore. And the biggest thing is we all want to just go home.
This is Western North Carolina as it stands today. 12 months have passed since Helene began its destructive path through the mountains. Yet the lives of our western neighbors are still in pieces. Many are still unhoused, still unemployed, and still unable to get basic needs like water and power. Their recovery will take years. North Carolinians are strong. They won't ask for your help, but they cannot do this alone. In the next hour, we will meet the survivors still fighting and the volunteers working to help them. The task before them is simple. They want to go home. Yet the path to get there is so monumental that many are no closer than they were a year ago. These are their stories.
They was never prepared for anything like this.
It had the winds of Hugo and the rains of the Great Flood of 1916.
In the years that I've been here, I've not experienced anything to this magnitude.
Our hydrologist said, I'm going to stop using the word catastrophic because that doesn't describe what's about to happen to you guys.
Front door, the water pushed it in, and within 30 seconds it went from the ground to neck level.
Every gust of wind, you heard 1, 2, 3 trees fall.
Up here, in between all the buildings, was these giant whirlpools.
I mean, I really thought I was just going to, drown in my own house.
The 20-foot wall of water came crashing through the gorge.
Lasted for 2 or 3 hours. Just fear, devastation, and not knowing what was coming.
The roar, the tumbling of the debris in the river, people's homes, it was not a good sound.
7 businesses just totally washed away.
Coffins. 16 coffins went by at neighborhood.
And then it got scarier from there.
I had to tell my staff at that point there was people dying and there was nothing that we were able to do about it.
He was telling me that this person was gone and that person was gone and everybody was gone.
It did look bombed out and it looked destroyed.
People's lost their whole life. The stuff they've worked for all their life was washed down the river.
It's changed our lives completely. No part of my life is the same as it was before Helene.
A lot of people are living in tents. People are living in RVs that are families of 5 and 6 people in an RV.
But she has her life.
But she has her life, yeah. But, I mean, they're like, but what life do I have left?
But it will never be what it was before the storm.
Helene was so destructive in the mountains for 2 reasons. First, the higher elevation meant higher wind speeds. Second, 2 days of rain preceded the storm. These prolonged rains filled river basins and oversaturated the soil.
Severe weather moving into the western part of the state. Cherokee, Clay, Buncombe,
This was an incredibly unusual storm. So we already had flash flood warnings in effect Wednesday night and Thursday night. Thursday evening, more rain and more flash flooding. We have never issued that many flood warnings. It just set the stage for a devastating event. By the time Helene came, the water couldn't go into the soils anymore. The soils were completely saturated. And when you have over 2 feet of rain, in a short period of time, going into those hollers and those gorges, all it can do is rise. And the compounding effects was just absolutely devastating. So when you have over 2 feet of rain, almost 3 feet of rain, falling over the entire Black Mountain range, there's only one place for it to go. It's got to go down into the valleys. It was unspeakable damage. No one alive today has ever seen anything like that before in Western North Carolina. It was horrific.
Here in Chimney Rock, buildings on Main Street were destroyed by an unstoppable wall of water caused by mudslides upstream. These mudslides had swept into the Broad River, carrying trees, boulders, and homes. The heavy materials piled up against 5 bridges upstream until they could not hold up any longer. One by one, each bridge collapsed, releasing a mass of deadly debris that would wipe out Main Street. The people below had no idea what was headed their way that Friday morning.
There was turtles that I had watched for 28 years that were enormous. I would see them every day at lunch. I haven't seen a turtle since, but hopefully some of them survived. We have been in business for 28 years in this location. The building had been there since 1945 and never had water. It literally took 15 minutes. Our house is on the bottom floor. It faces the river, and our store is on the top floor and it faces the road. We were in our house on the bottom floor at 9:45, and the water started to bubble up through the pilings. We went upstairs at 10 o'clock, and the water rose at least 6 feet. By 10:03, we looked down, and our refrigerator floated out from the bottom floor down the river, and we said we better get out of the building. So at 10:15, we ran out of the building to the parking lot, and at 10:15, the entire building collapsed where we were standing. So we're lucky to be alive.
If you go to Chimney Rock, there are rocks sitting there now that were never there before. And you can see all along Hickory Nut Gorge, you can see how high it was scoured along the side. I heard some eyewitness accounts that people were looking into the rivers and seeing rocks hitting each other like a blender in the water. They were hitting each other with so much force that the rocks were sparking underwater. There is nothing that's going to stand in this way.
If I would have known all that was coming my way, I might have been scared. I should have been scared less. It happened just like that. I saw the water rushing in, went up to the top of the stairs, and by the time I turned around to go back down the stairs to grab more stuff, the water had probably risen 8 feet. I had no clue or concept what I was actually witnessing. Houses were the small stuff going down through the river.
People tell me they saw houses floating down the river, cars, tons of debris, propane tanks, a lot of trees, not parts of trees, but whole trees. The girders littered the riverbed. Some of these are 2-foot thick I-beams, and there were a few that were literally wrapped around rocks, like a U. At about 10 o'clock, the former fire chief called me, and he said, literally, he said, there's a raging river on Main Street. And I just couldn't believe it. I said, do you mean there's water on Main Street? And he said, no, it's a raging river. Shortly after that, I kept trying to call people back and had no service here. I didn't want to overreact in my mind, but still I'm just thinking, okay, this is bad. I was in shock, really. And that, again, it just amazes you to see that kind of power.
Water is incredibly powerful. A cubic foot of water, that's over 60 pounds per square inch. When that is going down a river valley, nothing is going to stand in its way. Absolutely nothing.
My husband was on the back deck, and he felt the deck move. And he looked around and he seen our neighbor's house coming down the river, and he yelled at us to get out, and we ran out. And as we ran out, we all get on the bank and we turn around and we see their house go down the river. And you stand 30 feet away from a home, your family's home, and you watch water slowly pick it up, and it shift. Of all the willpower you could muster that day, for it to stop, just stop. Don't take it. And it took it anyway. And just the sheer helplessness was very humbling.
Helene is responsible for at least 108 deaths in North Carolina, making it the deadliest hurricane in state history. Buncombe County had the most, with 43 fatalities.
Half of those were landslides, and we cannot predict landslides. We don't issue landslide warnings. We can't predict slope failures. We don't know where slopes have modified. That's something, it's beyond the scope of the science. We can't do that, and it's terrible. There was a partnership with the USGS and NCGS and Corps of Engineers. Lots of people got out and started physically mapping the landslides, and they stopped at 2,000.
Craigtown, a community built by one family in Fairview, was wiped out by landslides. 13 people died. 11 of those were members of the Craig family.
Dan and Evelyn Wright, Jimmy and Lois Souther, Ronnie and Sandy Craig, Tony Garrison, Brandon Root, Freddie and Terry Pack, and Angie Craig. We'll never be able to replace them. If I was here that day, I wouldn't be here. There's so many Craigs that live here, that have land here. When I was a kid, people would just start saying Craigtown, and everybody knew where Craigtown was at. You could go to any house, and it was just like you were at your house. My family was here, and I wasn't. It took me a while for me to even find out what had happened, because the phones went SOS, no cell service, no power, no nothing. But it got to the point, I told my wife, I said, I'm gonna ride up and I'm gonna check on Mom and Dad and everybody up there. I tried 3 ways to get here and had to turn around, and I stopped by another coach's house. His son-in-law is related to me, and when I walked up on the porch, he had that look in his face, and he said, "You haven't heard." I said, "Nope." That was tough. He was telling me that this person was gone and that person was gone and everybody was gone. And my parents' home and my great aunt and uncle just around the corner were totally taken. My grandmother's home got washed down into my aunt and uncle's home. 11 immediate family members taken that day.
The western North Carolina mountains are used to strong winds. We get cold fronts that come through all the time in the winter, and we get strong northwest winds that come through, and the wind blows like crazy. What the western North Carolina mountains are not used to is hurricane force wind gusts coming from the southeast with full summertime to early fall foliage. So what happened is those strong winds caught those leaves, and the trees, it just acted like sails that just picked those trees up and it knocked them over. Sometimes it snapped them right over. It was devastating. Now, because of the incredible amounts of rain, once those winds start rocking those trees back and forth, the soil is basically just liquefying at that point, and the trees are just coming down left and right.
Fallen trees made these sparsely populated roads impassable for emergency responders. And while rescue efforts were focused around more populous areas, smaller, more rural communities were on their own.
I know that in Mitchell County, where we're at right now, it was the hardest hit for the forestry division and had the most damage done throughout the state and the storm.
What I can attest it to is it looked like a war zone, just Mother Nature did it. It did look bombed out and it looked destroyed beyond belief. It was surreal.
Spruce pine, just like the rest of western North Carolina, looks very different now. The trees, the amount of trees that Helene brought down was incredible, absolutely incredible, especially when you go higher up in elevation.
My best friend owns a coffee shop in downtown Spruce Pine, and I went to her and I said, "You need to understand this won't be here tomorrow."
And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "We're trying to tell everybody. I don't feel like people are listening to us. There's a path of the 100-year storm, and it's headed this way."
And she said, "Oh, you're overthinking this." She told me later, she said, all she could remember seeing was the tears rolling down your face, saying, "No, you don't understand. This will not be here tomorrow, and nobody's listening to me." I can't tell you why I felt like that. I don't know, but It wasn't there. It was all gone.
You work your whole life trying to build something for you and your family, and just one morning it's all gone.
Everybody in this county, everybody who's visiting, that's our responsibility. And the moment that they were talking about biblical proportions, oh, absolutely, I was worried. Very worried. We went from that 60 call per 24 hours to 60 or more an hour.
I'm on one. What's the address of the emergency?
We're going to have to try to get out of here. If we don't, we're going to be underwater here at my house.
Whatever you need to do to make that swiftwater team pull, you do it. Veterans Rescue and Command.
Sean Drive off Brushy Creek. We got to get into
literally half a barn in the road.
We're going to be unable to make it to Poplar.
A radio call that came in. There had been somewhat of a landslide, and they couldn't access the address to check on the people.
So I just confirmed there's no getting through.
When they gave the address, that was actually the address where one of my daughters and her family was at. So, sitting behind the console, not knowing if your family's alive is hard. Took my moments and shed my tears, but knew that I had a responsibility to everybody else also. Hearing those officers on the radio that they had to move because a tree about hit them.
Here's my location. I just had 2 more trees fall right where I'm at. I'm not going to be able to cut any of these. I was able to get out of the way just in time, though.
It's hard when those officers that are off duty start calling and begging, and there's nothing you can do.
We got trees everywhere, and every mudslide, we're trapped.
Having to make that decision to stop all operations. In my career, that's never happened.
Communications all need to cease operations, get to safety.
Stopping the work is the most difficult decision that was made that impacted every citizen in this county, was having them stop. I had to tell my staff at that point that we needed to realize that there was people dying and there was nothing that we were able to do about it. When we got that information from Ashley, my daughter, it said, just tell Mom I'm alive. I can't imagine those families that lost family members because that 48 hours of not knowing was heart-wrenching and will forever be an impact from this job that I live with and deal with. The responders that were in the field, I can't even begin to imagine what they were seeing. The same as they'll never understand that there's things that we're never going to unhear.
When Helene finally passed, towns were devastated, roads were destroyed, and cell service was disrupted. Neighbors and strangers had to rely on each other, supplying life-saving care, food, and water. Next, the powerful stories of resilience and recovery.
We were basically trapped. We were so cut off from the world. That was probably one of the scariest things when it happened.
Then you have the realization that every access into the county is cut off. Basically, we became an island in the mountains.
Came across an Amstel Light and a jar of pickles. So that was my first meal after the storm.
Drive through and you see all the devastation and you kind of have to almost compartmentalize it and put it on hold. Well, I needed to see what I could do to start helping. That's the mode I shifted into.
And so there's that moment, can I become a diamond in the pressure, or am I just going to get exploded from the pressure?
I just realized that there was a whole lot greater things in life than what we needed. It was more about whatever we could do for our neighbors. And
there's some guys doing what we needed to be done. We just started running helicopters around, and so we were able to land a Chinook down here.
You're like, nope, this isn't stopping us. We're moving forward. There's not one person that I know that said, oh, I'm just going to fold up and move.
And we will outlast, outfight the sorrow. We will be standing after the flood.
I've gone through hurricanes and everything in all these states. No state have I ever seen such a giving people. The people of North Carolina, especially the mountain people, they're very independent and they're going to take care of what needs to be taken care of.
People, neighbors, everyone were on the side of the road with chainsaws, big heavy equipment, cutting their way out. It was unlike anything we've ever seen.
We would take turns cooking. A couple other ladies in the community that were eating with us, they might bring something one evening. We'd kind of put our heads together and say, hey, this is what we're going to try and do. It was like no matter who stopped by while we were eating, we're like, hey, we've got enough, you know, come on and eat. And people would stop and eat. So it was kind of like Jesus with the fish and the loaves. It just seemed to multiply and be enough to feed everybody.
I cried twice in the skid loader because people just don't know that that little kitchen unit we moved was here from the beginning. So we were feeding the whole community. It was just this dumb little cook trailer we had. And it just turned into a life-feeding machine. I mean, we were feeding thousands of people.
Western North Carolina has such a strong people, and that coming together kept us alive.
When we were going out and trying to give out supplies to people, they're like, oh, I don't need it.
We knock on their door and say, hey, you want a couple of cases of water? Do you need some things?
At first, it was, we don't need anything. There are other people that need more than what we have.
People will say to you, no, I'm good. You help somebody else that needs it more than me.
They're like, oh, I don't need it. Somebody else needs it more than me. We're like, but they needed it. It wasn't like they couldn't use it.
Hardly met one person that hadn't said that, and their home is in a pile at the bottom of a mountain. I'm sure somebody needs help more than I do. You know, don't rush. You know, it's okay. You know, it's not okay, and they need help bad. They're just good people.
We adopted the method in the beginning was like, hey, if people tell you they don't need supplies or something like that, ask them 3 times. If they still don't want it, it's like, hey, can we leave it here in case your neighbors need it or anything like that, and we'll drop off supplies for them. And eventually, our hope was that they would use it or they would give it to their neighbors if they also needed it.
I think that's part of the North Carolina spirit.
It is. We all are independent and feel like we can handle whatever's thrown at us. And I speak for everybody in this valley. They want to see their neighbors get help, but they're too strong-willed to ask.
Because the first few days, there was no electricity, no water, no cell phone, no internet.
We were so cut off from the world. That was probably one of the scariest things when it happened. I couldn't call my daughter at school.
To not be able to let your loved ones know that you're okay is probably the worst moment of the flood for me. The only bridge to come in here had 25 foot of trees. So Max came up with the idea of, there was drones from the news. And Max said, let's go outside and start waving at the drones.
Somebody said, hey, if you have Starlink, it works. And we were like, okay.
Finally, this drone came down, filmed us. Sunday afternoon in South Florida, somebody had ran the drone video on the news.
My husband crawled up on the roof and got our Starlink down, and he plugged it in, and it worked.
Bobby's sister, Dodie, saw it, who then called Bobby in the afternoon to tell him we were alive. And that's how he found out 3 days, whatever it is, after the flood that we were alive.
We were able to make, calls on Wi-Fi, and that was amazing. The fire department gave us a small generator just to run it constantly, and the whole community was coming here to be able to get in touch with their family, because some of them hadn't talked to them in days and days.
It's hard for me to talk about Jack. It really is. I mean, I can't tell you what he means to us. First thing he did was move the river back to where it originally was, and he built that wall using all those rocks that were not there before either, you know. And for the first time, we were able to get back, driving back and forth and not have to carry supplies in a cart from the main road. And he's family now. He's not somebody who's just done things for us. He's family.
I've been walking by these rocks, and God says, I want you to try to move that rock. And I'm looking at God going, but God, I'm a tiny little cowboy. I can't move that big rock. Jake was actually working across the river, so Jake watched me like for a whole entire week with a wheelbarrow and a shovel moving these rocks. That next Monday, he comes over with his big machine, and he was like, would you like some help moving some bigger rocks? And then we start doing all this kind of fun stuff back here.
And he was moving rocks like this by hand, which is crazy because it's a 200-pound rock and he's not a big man, but he was doing it. And when I saw what he was able to do, I said, well, let me come in and help you with the big boulders. And we did a lot of artistic type work there. Because that was rebuilding spiritually for him, you know, because it wiped his whole place out, kind of rebuilt it, but his spirit was down. Today's 259s, and we're still doing the same thing, still no charge. We had people from day one trying to give us donations, and I wouldn't accept them. You know, God had given me the tools and the skills to help people, and how do I charge for that? So I just started helping, and I haven't stopped. For the first 2 weeks, I basically worked for Bat Cave Fire Department. They couldn't get out, they were trapped, isolated on a little island on their property. I met with the chief, and he asked me if I could open any access points so they could get in and out with something besides a helicopter. We worked till well after dark that night. They could move and they could get medical supplies to who they needed to get to and bring injured people and bodies. I mean, there was quite a bit going on at that time. It was extremely tough. I remember having 3 or 4 rescue vehicles behind me, you know, just following the excavator as I went through the woods trying to build a road. Just felt like I was doing the right thing. And I just realized that I wasn't gonna leave until everything was okay. We get a lot of tears. How could I ever repay you? And my answer is always, you know, just seeing you guys happy is all I needed. I have people tell me a lot of times they had no hope until I showed up and unloaded a machine, and they realized that everything they thought was never going to happen is going to happen.
Spokes of Hope, they've literally been a lifesaver for this village.
Shane's good people. When we met each other, he started throwing grading at me immediately that he needed right away, and I found out what he did, and I was like, well, I know this person needs a roof and this person needs a retaining wall.
He's up there running around. Me and him are joined at the hip, me and Jake. Full-time work for the Lord, full-time disaster relief. We lead the teams and we organize and get in front of them. And it's hard to keep in front of 100 Amish at the same time. You know, Amish are the most incredible workforce alive on the planet. Straight up.
Honestly, if they had not shown up, the future of Chimney Rock would be a lot more dire.
Their force has made the difference. They deserve credit, but they don't want credit. I don't know how else to tell you that. From foundations to structural and framing to finished carpentry to painting to you name it, it's the whole construction process that occurs.
It was a great union once we came together because I could help things that he can't do and he can do things that I can't do, and suddenly people are getting houses built and their land graded and their old house torn down and all.
I've been around the countryside on some good tornadoes and Ian and things, so I've seen some good devastation, but when you look at the gorge, this was at another level.
Shane Zaccoli showed up about a week after the flood, and he approached me and told me who he was, and they were going to come and help, and they were going to help us rebuild the village. And he said, you'll have to learn to trust us. They have been here, and they have done everything that they said they would do.